And today, this 3-hour session is really giving you an overview of Charting the Life Course and person-centered thinking. It will support you as an SSA, but also any role you have, because whatever role you have, whether you're working with babies or whether you're working with people who are older, if you're working in the education system, the DD system, the mental health system, juvenile justice, any system, this information is broad and applicable to anyone that supports people and their families. So we're happy to have you today. A couple of housekeeping things. First of all, I want to thank Tracy Mans. Yay, thanks, Tracy. She is our program manager for the Family Resource Network of Ohio. We hope that you have gone to that webpage and that you have signed up for our notifications. That's how we get the word out about any of our opportunities to learn more about Charting the Life Course. And all of those opportunities are free of charge. Today, the session will also, you'll also receive 3 CEUs from DODD. And Tracy coordinates everything. So I want to thank you, Tracy. Thanks for all your help.
You are so welcome. There will be a survey that will pop up on your computer as you exit today, and there'll be a place to mark whether or not you want those continuing education. So please mark it and fill out your information so I can get it to you if you'd like to have this. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So it's 3 hours. We will take a comfort break somewhere around the midpoint. As Tracy said, you have to attend, participate, and submit a feedback form that will pop up as you exit. And please mark if you want those CEUs. I'm not sure today if we'll use chat or breakout rooms, but if we do use a breakout room, I just ask that you put the camera on. It just makes it more humanistic, and we feel like we're actually talking to each other and not a screen. So thank you for that accommodation. A little bit about me, if you have not heard me before. I worked in the IDD film. I've worked for over 45 years in a variety of roles. I started out as a sub DSP. So any of you that were DSPs, you know what that means. I got the call at night, and I got the call early in the morning. Can you come in and cover a shift? I worked as a speech language pathologist. That was my training. And I retired from the Cuyahoga County Board, where I also worked as an SSA or a service coordinator, and had a variety of other roles. I've also been a family caregiver, unpaid, and I say unpaid because any of you that are family members know that if you're paid, you have to go through certain training and do certain things, blah, 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 blah. And I was unpaid by choice. I also am a mentor trainer in the learning community for person-centered practices. But most importantly, I'm the older sister of Nick and Jim. Nick was diagnosed with a developmental disability at 6 months of age when I was 4. And Jim was in an accident in his 30s that affected his ability to earn a living and get through his day without help. If any of you are from Northeast Ohio, that little black and white picture is of us visiting Santa at Hallie's, and we have our Mr. Jingling keys for any of you that means anything. And it does mean a lot to people from Northeast Ohio. So all of our trainings are provided by the Family Resource Network of Ohio through the very generous funding of the Department of DD, to whom we are very, very grateful that we can provide this information to you. So let me give you a little bit of background information. Today, I'm going to talk about the principles and framework of Charting the Life Course. I'm going to introduce you to some of the tools, and I'm going to show you how the relationship between person-centered thinking and Charting the Life Course works, and show you how you can use some of those tools. regardless of your role, if you're a family member, if you're a professional, whatever system you work in, or if you don't work in a system, it doesn't matter. And really what I want to focus on is how these resources and tools can help you do your job, but also how you can use them to empower people with disabilities and their families. Those of you who work in the system, you know that we're not in people's lives. They don't have the same person in their life for a long time from the system. And so part of our role is to help them have control over their lives. Here's a slide of the handouts. Again, Tracy has put that link in chat. And so if you need it to get those handouts, please click on the link. There are, I believe, 7 handouts. Yes, I got to look. Yes. And I think she must have put it just again in. Yes, very good. So all of you should be able to access it. Again, on the left side of the screen, Charting the Life Course is a person-centered approach that was developed by and for people with disabilities and their families. You see that we use icons, and there's a reason for that. We try to use common language so that everyone can understand it, but we also use icons just to remind people and to help people remember those concepts. On the right, you see a map of the United States. Just a reminder, you see Ohio is kind of a light purple. We are part of about 24 or 25 states that have embraced Charting the Life Course. And so the richness for us is that we get to learn not just from people in Ohio, but we get to learn from people across the United States. How are they using Charting the Life Course? And then the reciprocity is that we get to share what we're doing. So we get to share our learning and learn with and from each other, which is so rich. So in Ohio, Tracy, at some point, can you tell me, could you show me the results of the polls so I know who's on the call? Okay, so SSAs, thank you. Other professionals, awesome. Oh, I'm so glad. I am so glad that there are others. Early childhood, I'm excited. Thank you for joining us. I'll talk about how this is awesome. So there's people here who work across the lifespan. And then your familiarity, but have not used the tools. So about half of you have heard of it, but not used the tools. And only a few of you have used the tools. Thank you so much. Thanks, Tracy. I'm excited that there are people that work with people across the lifespan. And I'm trying to get the poll off of my screen, which I am having a trouble doing. Okay. I'm gonna see if I can close this out. I can't move it. Geez. Anyway, what we want to see in Ohio is we want everyone to know about Charting the Life Course. I still can't get rid of it. Okay, let me see if I can close out of the poll. There we go. There we go. Okay. Sorry, folks. What we want to see in Ohio, our outcome is that we want to see everybody know about Charting the Life Course. So we have sessions that we do just for people with lived experience. We've integrated it into Project STIR. We want families to know about Charting the Life Course and use the framework and tools. We want professionals to use it. And we want everybody to understand and use this common language. So if someone says trajectory, everybody knows what they're talking about. What we don't want is people to say, oh, here's another form. These resources and tools help you have conversations. I've worked in early childhood. I've worked with people across the lifespan. So I know what information you need for your individual plans. And Charting the Life Course helps you facilitate the conversation to get that rich information that many people have said that they did not know about people before that they work with. So it's really moving to really find out, not just complete an assessment but to really find out what kind of life people want. So in Ohio, we're sharing information with, like I said, lots of different stakeholders across systems, as well as people that are not involved in any system, because we want to build that common vocabulary and language. In Ohio, we have a community of practice. A community of practice is not a training. A community of practice is a group of people who are passionate about a topic. And so this community of practice is passionate about supporting and empowering people and families. Our next meeting, we meet quarterly by Zoom. Our next meeting is January 25th from 10 to 11:30. And the content, the structure of the COP is that we share what people are doing in Ohio, how they're using Charting the LifeCourse, the impact on their lives or their work, and then we give people the opportunity to share what they're doing. So we hope you can join us. It's different than any other kind of a training or meeting you've attended. I am going to pull out pieces and parts of the SSA rule. Why? Because regardless of the system you work in, regardless of the age of the person you work with, we all have to perform these functions. So in Ohio rule, it says that SSAs or service coordinators have to assess. You have to do that no matter what job you have, whether you're a provider, whether you're a speech pathologist like I was, and knowing what's important to the person and also what's important for. We also have to assess the supports that people might need. And the reason I put this slide up is because those 6 areas below communication are 6 life domains from Charting the LifeCourse. They are quality of life areas. They are not necessarily skill areas, and we'll talk more about those 6 domains. We also have to develop a plan that is person-centered, which means that it's probably never done. It's a process. And it's never done because we always change what we want to do, and it's directed by the person. This is the same focus as if you're in early childhood or school age. It's got to be driven by the person. So it's just interesting to see how it's in rule, but it goes across service systems. Probably most of you, unless you are an SSA, are not developing or recommending a budget. That may be the one difference. But all of us that work with people and families, regardless of the system, have to have effective communication and coordination. And we help people find providers. So some of you may be like, no, we don't. But I was a speech pathologist, and I help people find private SLPs. I help people find assistive technology. I help people find funding to get that assistive technology. So you may not think, oh, I don't help them find providers, but teachers, you may be helping, if there are any teachers or anybody working with school age and early childhood, you may be helping people find daycare providers. You may be helping people find preschools. You may be helping them find programs in their community that their kids can be involved in, dance classes, swimming, sports teams. So think broadly, don't think narrow. We all do this. And then, of course, we have to make sure that whatever plan we've been part of, that it is truly helping people get the services they need so they can have the life they value. Again, all the functions that we all do, regardless, even if you're a family member, you do this. Currently, I have a family member who has been in intensive care and is going to rehab, we hope today. And this is what we've been doing, assessing what does he need, developing a plan. We are not recommending a budget, but we had to look at what funding does he have, and then looking for providers. And I hope in the DD system, we do better than the discharge planners at the hospital who handed us a 5-page list of rehab facilities that took his funding and said, pick 4. And we picked 4 and none of them have an opening. And so it's like, why are you taking us on this blind scavenger hunt as opposed to telling us who has openings? Anyway, that's my personal pet peeve for today. And if you question, why do we have to do this? I just want to remind you of the Rehab Act, which is 59 years old. And it says it's the first federal law that said that disability is a natural part of the human experience. And look at the outcomes. They are very familiar to us. They are in local rule. They are in Medicaid guidance. So I would like you to type in chat, why are you here? What are you looking forward to hearing? There are, I believe, 27 of you. You have different roles because you answered that first poll question. What brings you? Tell me what you're looking forward to. And this will help me as I go through the content to make sure I tie whatever I am saying to whatever you're looking for. So I appreciate the response. Okay, strength and skill set. Great, thank you. Others? And I'll talk about, this is an overview. We also provide something we call guided implementation, and it's on one of the last slides, where we actually work with people over the course of about 5 to 6 months and have you actually use the tools in your work and share with a cohort, a group of about 15 or 20 people, how you've used it so people can actually get that practice. As many of you indicated, you've heard of it, but you haven't used Charting the LifeCourse. And so we offer the guided implementation with CEUs, it's all on Zoom, to help people move past it's good, it's nice, to actually using it and learning how to apply. Parent mentor, great, Dawn. Oh, awesome. Awesome. A family who wants to do it. Oh, that's awesome. Looking for a refresher, to be a better provider. Oh, Lisa, I'm so glad you're on the call as a provider. I'll say what I say to providers all the time. You spend more time with people than service coordinators, SSAs. And you can use these to help people think about what kind of life they want. And you can also bill when you have, if you decide if you're a day program provider and you decide you're going to do some sessions on using Charting the LifeCourse to think about their life. Better support providers, awesome. In a small team, very good. Learning more how to help my kids find their direction and purpose. Awesome, awesome. Most effective way. Oh, great. Building advocacy ideas for outreach. Awesome. Gaining knowledge. Okay, I will try to remember all this. And also some personal, want to use it. Helping prepare for the Ohio ISP. Awesome. And please remember, none of these forms are mandated, but they will help you have those conversations so you can fill out the paperwork, whether it's an IFSP, IEP, or OISP. Thank you so much. You can continue to add, or if you haven't, oh, I forgot. Oh, please, I'm so sorry. If you have questions, please type them in chat. Tracy and I will be monitoring the chat, and so please feel free to type your questions. Our core belief in Charting the LifeCourse is we believe all people and their families have the right to live, love, work, play, learn, and pursue their life aspirations in their community. Now, if you remember the Rehab Act, this is a restatement of what the Rehab Act said, that people with disabilities, but we're saying all people. and their families. So please remember that Charting the Life Course is not just used with people with IDD. It's being used in the mental health system, in the public schools, in juvenile and adult justice, in hospital settings, medical settings, not just with people with IDD, but with all people, aging, people who are receiving services from their aging system. So please know that this is not just for people with IDD. In fact, as yes, helping make sure that services are individualized. Very, very nice. Very nice. Thank you for adding that, and not cookie cutter. As I've supported people nationally, what I hear more and more and more from people who develop their skills is, I can use these in my own life. And that is the purpose of the all, is that anyone can use these. So we want everybody to have a good life. We want people to have that civil right of self-determination or control over decisions affecting their life. We want people to be interdependent, because none of us is independent, even though we tell people they need to be independent. None of us are. I don't cut my grass. I don't shovel my snow. I don't make home repairs. I call people, I pay them. Some of you may pay someone to cut your hair and fix your hair. I buy my clothes, I don't make them. I buy my groceries, I don't grow them. We are all interdependent. I don't make gasoline for my car. And I say this because as a system, we often tell people they have to be independent, and we don't define what that means. So please be careful of using that word and making sure that people tell us what they mean when they say, I want to be independent, and that we are clear when we say that. We want families to be supported in a way that recognizes their strengths and capacities so they can support the people they love. And one of the premises of person-centered is that the person and the family know what is best for them and have strengths. We all have jobs because sometimes they need help, and we can help them get the services and the funding. But we need to recognize that all families have strength. In person-centered thinking, see if you see the parallels with the Rehab Act and Charting the Life Course. We want people to have control over the life they want. Okay, so self-determination. We want people to be recognized and valued in their communities. And we want people to be supported both in unpaid and paid relationships in their communities. In other words, we want people to get better lives, not just better paper. So overall, if you look at Charting the Life Course, person-centered thinking, Medicaid guidance, which funds most of the services, whether you're in a school, at the hospital, in a DD system, in early childhood and rural, the overall outcomes is we want people to feel supported, that they get help, that we want them to feel empowered, that we give them tools and resources, not just email it to them. So please don't just email a Charting the Life Course tool to somebody and say, hey, I think this will help, but use it with them, show them how it can be helpful, and give it to them. Otherwise families just see, oh God, you just gave me another piece of paper to fill out. We want people to be seen as valued members of their community, and we want them to have a life they value, that they have a good quality of life. And the framework we use is those 6 domains. So we need to start thinking about, when we went to person-centered thinking, everybody's like, oh, I can only talk to the person, I can't talk to the family. And boy, that is a misconception. We want to look at person-centered supports in the context of the family. And why am I emphasizing the family? I'll get to that in a minute. But just a reminder, Charting the Life course is about having different conversations with people. It's using the tools and resources to facilitate conversation, have people think in a different way, have them think of possibilities and high expectations. I was on a call this week with actually a group in Ohio, and they said, Charting the Life course doesn't talk about post-secondary education. And I pulled up some of the resources and I said, some of the questions are, do you want to go to college? Have you gone to look at colleges? Have you pursued funding for college or post-secondary education? I said, so how do these questions work with that? And they're like, oh. So we don't want people to just think the trajectory is I go to special ed and then I go to day programming. But do I want to take post-secondary classes? Do I want to go to college? Do I want to go to trade school? Do I want to go into some kind of an apprenticeship program? We also recognize the importance of having life experiences. How do you know what you want and don't want if you've never tried it? How do you know if you like sushi if you've never tried it? How do you know if you like, my example always is, how do I know if I like country music if I've never listened to it? And we want people to get supports, not just from the service system, but from other integrated support areas. So we're not talking about a program, we're not talking about paper, forms, tools, but we're talking about a different way of thinking. It can be used for anyone. I've seen parents use it with their twins that were under a year old. I've seen families use it with their parents who are in their 90s and are aging and can no longer perhaps answer questions about what kind of life do you want. And so the children are thinking about, well, what do we know that's important to mom? What do we know that she really wants to be able to do? And please, there are no yes buts in Charting the Life course. Yes, but Barb, I work with people who are, quote, low functioning. Yes, Barb, but I work with people who also have dual diagnosis. Yes, Barb, but I work with people who don't use words to communicate. You see in parentheses, we gather the information from people who know the person well and from their words and their actions. And I, as a speech language pathologist for 45 years, I have retired my license, so I can't say I'm an SLP right now. I never met anyone who the people who knew them well couldn't tell me what a good life was for them and what they liked, what they didn't like, what they wanted, what they didn't want. And when I started working in Cleveland, in Cuyahoga County, for the board, we had 3 state institutions in Cuyahoga County, and I worked with people who lived at all 3, and many of them who did not use words to communicate in any way, signed, spoken, devices, pictures, symbols, and yet we knew what was important to them and what a good life was for them. So we need to start thinking about the person in the context of family. Why? Because nationally, we know that only 1 in 4 people with IDD receive supports from the system. So what about those other 75%? In Ohio, and this data is a couple of years old. I cannot find more current data, but I think it still holds pretty true. In Ohio, we are only aware of about 50% of people who who have IDD and receive services through the State Department, whether from the local county board or from DODD. So we're higher than the national average. But this statistic is what really strikes me. When I first started talking to professionals about Charting the Life course, they would say, but Barb, I work with people who don't have family. And in Charting the Life course, we define family as anybody the person identifies as family, whether they are related or whether they are chosen. But look at this statistic. In Ohio, 68% of people with IDD live with family. 17% live alone or with one other person, and 15% live in supervised residential settings. Think ICFs, congregate settings, group homes where there's staff around the clock. 85% do not receive 24/7 support. Someone is helping them. You know, the family, the friends, someone is helping them. So we have 8 principles in Charting the Life Course. First of all, as I said before, it's for all people across the lifespan, across abilities, across service systems or not, that we recognize the value of the family system and that the family goes through a cycle. And as they go through a cycle, their needs may change. So think about as parents get older, think about the family member that I'm thinking of or that I'm currently supporting lost a parent very recently, and siblings are having to step up when they never did before. And so all of a sudden, the system, the family system and dynamics is very different. That we look at life stages and a trajectory, and you can see the life stages from infancy, the icons, the baby to aging, and that we know and recognize the importance of having outcomes across the lifespan. I've worked with parents who were in EI, and when I asked them the question, and not just what do you want on your IFSP, but what do you want for your child as they grow up? What do you see them doing as an adult? They could identify outcomes. And then the importance of having experiences so people can identify outcomes. There are 6 life domains. They are interrelated and they are quality of life indicators. We'll talk about 3 buckets of supports. I'll do that in a couple of minutes. And integrated supports, not just receiving help from the system, but from 4 other areas. And something that we all struggle with, and that is, how are we including people with lived experience in families at the level of making decisions about policy? Do you have someone with lived experience on your county board or on your school board? Do you include people with lived experience when you are looking at changing your paperwork, your process? Do you have family members engaged? And a thing that I struggle with, and as a family member, I was part of work groups, but I was often the only person at that work group that was not on paid work time because I volunteered. And so how are we supporting families and people with lived experience to be engaged and valued? It's a very bizarre experience to be the only one in a room of 20 people that's not getting paid to be there and not getting mileage. And I say that because for years, when I worked for the county board, I got mileage to go to meetings, and I got paid not only for the time I spent in the meeting, but for my travel time. And we do that with families and people with lived experience. So those of you who work with Medicaid know that CMS, or Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, are saying that we need to promote full access to community life. In other words, how are we helping people be part of their community, not just visiting it and going on outings? And how are we helping people have lives that they want? Which means we have to know what kind of life they want, not what kind of services, but what kind of life they want, so we can identify the services. We know that the focus is on the person with the disability, but we look at them within the context of their family. So just think about it in your own life. Those of you that live with someone, with another adult, or with children, how would it be if you went home today and say, I want you to be person-centered. I want you, the focus is all on me. It's all about what I want. And my guess is the people you live with are going to go, yeah, good luck with that one. Who do you think I am? And we need to stop talking that way to people and families. We need to look at, what does the family need? So family, it's not the family versus the person, but the person in the context of the family, because family support and engagement is critical to the support that someone has. And you may not, as a service coordinator or a provider, you may not even know the family involvement. Because I will just tell you, my mother, once I finished college, she refused to go to Nick's IEP meetings and ISP meetings. She said, I don't like going there. It's very sad for me. And she said, you went to school, you know what this means here. Here's his folder. And I said, Nick, can I go to your meetings? And he said, yes. So a lot of families find it very emotionally draining to go to our meetings. They don't like our meetings, go figure. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about siblings, and that we are often feel like the club sandwich generation, because we may be supporting older parents, we may be supporting our own children, and we may be supporting a sibling in our generation. On the bottom left, if you are working with a family and an adult sibling is engaged in providing that support, whatever that support may be, not just that they live with them, but maybe they come to the meetings, maybe they take them grocery shopping, maybe, I don't know, whatever. There is a closed Facebook group for adults who are siblings, and that is SibNet. It is for adults with siblings with any disability. It's not just IDD. It could be mental health, could be medical, and it is a closed Facebook group. It is called SibNet. There's about 5,000 siblings on there from all over the world. In Charting the Life course, we also talk about relationships and reciprocity, that we want to recognize that everyone gives, but also everyone receives. We talk about caring about and caring for. And caring about, you see the icon is a heart. So that's the emotional support that we give to each other and that we receive. Caring for is that physical support. You see it's a shield. So what do we do to protect people? What do we do to take care of people? And I'm just going to do a quick overview. I plan to do a live event in either January or February, a 1-hour overview where I talk about reciprocity and mapping relationships and how that can help families and professionals. So we need to look at and recognize that everyone exists in the context of a family. Family is defined by the person. So it's not dependent on whether someone comes to a meeting or whether they live close to somebody. I tell people I grew up in a Greek American family. I call people aunt and uncle. I am not related to them, but we consider them family. We respect them as family. Now, as I'm getting older, my friends' grandchildren call me aunt in Greek. And I think it's such an honor because I know what that means to their parents for them to tell them to call me that. And it tells me that I am a chosen family member. We're not biological. So we talk about the 3 buckets. The 3 buckets are one of the principles of Charting the Life course. And the challenge for us is all of us, when we have a need, we need support in these 3 buckets. So think about, you go to the doctor, you find out you have high blood pressure. First thing you want to know is information. What does that mean? What's the impact on my life? You probably, as the doctor is telling you this, you're probably Googling WebMD. Then you want to, that's the blue bucket. What do I need to know about this? The kind of yellow gold bucket, what will help me? Is there medication? Do I need to look at diet? Do I, medication, diet? Do I need to get more rest? Do I need to lose weight? What will help me? And then that orange bucket. Who else do I know has high blood pressure? What are they doing? So connecting with other people. But we also use this model when we're thinking of something fun like vacation. I want to go to the beach. Okay, I'm thinking of Florida. Let me find out where in Florida, what's available, goods and services. Am I going to fly? Am I going to drive? Am I going to stay at an Airbnb, at a hotel, at a campground? And then connecting and networking, reaching out to people. And you see this on Facebook. Has anybody stayed here? Has anybody gone here? Does anybody know anything about? Anybody got good places to visit when we're there? Any recommendations for restaurants? Those are the three buckets for all of us when we need any kind of support. As professionals, what we need to look at is how are we filling these three buckets when we work with families and with people? How are we giving them information? Not just when we talk to them, but do we have information that we hand out? People, if you tell me something, I don't know if I'm going to remember, even though I am a real religious note taker. And people who know me know that the minute I'm with my own family, someone walks in the hospital room, I'm taking notes. Excuse me, spell your name. But how do we give people information? Do we have it on our website? Do we have handouts? Do we have information sessions? Goods and services, how do we help people learn what's available to help them, not just through the system, but what's in their community? And connecting and networking, how are we helping people connect with other people or families? So on the bottom of the page, if you go to dodd.ohio.gov, you see there's tabs for providers, for county boards, for families. Tell them to click on that tab and they can sign up to be part of closed Facebook groups and get information that is specific for families. So help families connect with other families, because families can ask and answer questions that you as professionals can't. Who's a good provider? Who don't you like? Who have you had good experience with? One of the things that I challenge us all to think about is cliches. Oh, I hate cliches. Cliches are expressions that are used so often that they mean nothing. So natural support is a cliche. None of us use it in our life. We don't call up a neighbor and say, I'm expecting a delivery from Amazon. I won't be home. Will you watch my front door and take the package so the porch pirates don't get it? We say, can you do me a favor? We don't say, excuse me, can you provide me with an hour of natural support? If I said that to my neighbors, they would look at me and go, what are you talking about? Thinking outside the box. I'm so sick of hearing professionals say this. What is the box? How do I know you're thinking outside of it? Just be real. Tell me what you're saying. I'm thinking of things beyond the traditional services. I'm thinking, let's think beyond the county board. Let's think beyond the IEP. Independent, none of us are. Person-centered planning, it's become a cliche. People can't even define it anymore. Places and spaces, new normal, deeper dive. What's a deeper dive? What's a deep dive? What's a dive? And one that I talked about with a group nationally last week, we talked about how people use the cliche top down and bottom up. And one of the things we discussed is if we are being truly person-centered, why is top down meaning professionals? And why is bottom up meaning people and families? That indicates power over people and families, not power with. If we're being person-centered, top down should be people and families. Bottom up should be the system. So just think about how you use cliches with families. It's easy to use cliches because then we don't have to define them. One of the biggest cliches we use is community. We've made community a program, community employment, community living, community outings, community engagement, community membership. It's a program in our system. But if I ask you, are you part of your community? Let's build capacity. I don't even know what that means. Does that mean I can gain weight? Oh, never mind. I don't think that's what that means. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. It makes me crazy too. But if I ask you about your community, you're going to talk about where you go, who you belong, where you feel you belong. So it's not a place that we visit. And sociologists tell us that we have 3 places in our life. Our first place is our home because we spend the most time there, I hope. Our second place is wherever we go during the day, work, school, volunteer. Our third place is where we go on a regular basis and people miss us if we don't show up. So my mother went to the same beauty shop for over 40 years. And if she missed an appointment, I got a call from her hairdresser. Why isn't Melanie here? What happened? Oh, shoot, I forgot to cancel the appointment. And that was her third place. All the ladies had the appointments on the same time, on the same day. And so they saw the same people, they gossiped or chitty-chatted. So when we talk about community, please don't talk about outings. I don't tell people, God, I have such a good life because I go to Giant Eagle. And pick up groceries. I say, boy, I have a great life because I go to church and I'm part of this group and I hang out with this group of people and we go out to dinner once a month. It's the people that you see on a routine basis so that you truly feel you belong. I see a comment. No one knows what build capacity means. Oh, that's really sad, isn't it? Oh my God. Okay. So as you work with people and you talk about community, please remember, what are we really talking about? Are we helping people be part of a group where they belong? Not that they just visit Walmart or wherever. That's not community. And okay, so now I have lost the my directions. That's weird. There we go. Okay, sorry. So community is where we share our gifts. So do you know the gifts of the people you support? What do they know? What are the gifts of their head? What are the gifts of their heart? What qualities do they have? And what are the gifts of their hands? Are they crafty? Can they do things? So my story that I love, and I'm going to quickly share it, is a woman I know who lives in Southwest Ohio. She volunteered for over 25 years on mission trips with her church. And when I asked her, I had breakfast with her a couple of years ago, and I asked her, did you go yet? And she said, no, I'm going in a month. I said, what do you do? I've never gone on a mission trip. And she said, well, Barb, I tell the kids Bible stories. Oh, you're a storyteller. She goes, no, I tell kids Bible stories, or I tell them just other children's stories. I said, okay, you're a storyteller. No, Barb, I tell them stories. Okay, what else do you do? I put up walls. What do you mean you put up walls? Well, they don't, they live in cardboard boxes, and so we build houses. Oh, you're a builder. No, I put up walls. What else do you do? I paint. What do you paint? I paint the walls we put up. Oh, you're a painter. She said, Barb, hold on a minute. She pulls out her smartphone and swipes and says, Barb, look, I made centerpieces. We're having a pancake breakfast at church as a fundraiser. I said, you're an artist, because she made the centerpieces herself. She said, no, I made centerpieces. I said, what else do you do? She goes, Barb, I saved my money. My sister helps me save, and I buy toys and take them to the kids because they don't have toys. I said, so you're a fundraiser and you're a philanthropist. She said, what the heck is that? And I said, you use your money to help others. Do you see the difference in the words I use and the words she used? She described actions. I put up walls, I paint, I made centerpieces, I buy toys. I used builder, painter, storyteller, fundraiser, philanthropist. Think about the language we use to describe people. Those of you that are familiar with person-centered thinking know that we have 11 tools. You may have seen them on as part of your ISPs or assessments in the past. They help you get the information because the core is that we know what's important to people, what they tell us with their words and actions, important for, what's needed for health, safety, and being seen as a valued member, and making sure we address important to and important for. So Charting the Life Course and person-centered thinking are complementary. They empower people. The outcome is that people have a life they value, and that we use the tools to facilitate conversations to complete our job tasks. I sent you a worksheet to just think about the different tools and how they help you do the different functions of your role, whether you are a family member, someone who works in EI, someone who's a provider, someone who is an SSA or a county board employee. I also sent you the Charting the LifeCourse portfolio, excuse me, and I'm going to go through the 3 tools on the Charting the LifeCourse portfolio. The first tool is the one-page person-centered description. A lot of you may have written one pages, they might be descriptions, but if you're talking about a one-page person-centered description, please know that there are parameters. And this is what the parameters are. Why do we write it? We write it so we can help people think about who the person is as a person, not as someone eligible for services. So all of the language is human-centric. It's not disability-specific. So the first section is, what do people like and admire about me? Please know you don't have to use this form. In fact, the best ones are Word documents, and I will show you those in a minute. But like and admire are qualities. It's not what people do. So it's not that they're a Special Olympics athlete, but what qualities do they have? Are they athletic? Are they competitive? Are they social? It's not that they go horseback riding. But what are their qualities? It's not what they do, but who they are. So here's a list of qualities. If you are truly doing this with someone, as I have with people receiving services, I often have to say to them, based on what I know about you, you are reliable. When you and I schedule a Zoom meeting, you're on the call at least 5 minutes early. So you are reliable. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. Is that true? And they're like, oh, yeah. But when I ask them, what do people like and admire? They tell me what they do, their actions. I work at the day program. I help my supervisor. Okay, you help your supervisor, so you are helpful. You are compassionate. And please, 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 this is the language we should be using. So we're talking about human beings, not people receiving services. The second section is what is important to people. And there are 8 categories. They are listed: relationships, rituals and routines. Important to is what people tell us with their words or their actions. And this is important to someone is what helps them feel comforted, content, fulfilled, happy. So who are the people? Don't just write family and friends, because that tells you nothing. We don't like everyone in our family. So who are the people that are important to them? Status and control. What helps people feel valued? For you and I, it's probably that we have jobs, that we have technology, that we have a house, we have keys to our house and keys to our car, that we have an ID badge that gets us into work, things to do and places to go. Where do people like to go? What's important to them? Is it important to them to go to the day program? Is it important to them? One gentleman told me to go to karaoke at a certain bar, to go to church, to go to certain activities. Rituals and routines. We all have rituals and routines. So what's important to that person? Oh, you do it first to keep them. Yes. A lot of people will start meetings with, let's talk about who this person is. Let's go around the table. It's especially, I've seen it really helpful when people have a negative reputation, because you move people from talking about they have lots of behaviors or whatever to, so tell me something great about this person. Rituals and routines. You know, when I'm on Zoom, I have my water bottle. I have to have my coffee in the morning. I have to have certain facial scrub. Oh gosh. Think about what you do when you first get in the office. Things to have. I have to have my watch. I have to have my water bottle. I have to have my cell phone. Purpose and meaning. I ask people, what makes you feel good about yourself? I help out. I help my mother. I help at church. And then culture and identity. What's important to the person about their culture and their identity? So we make sure they have it in their life. And that's why we ask these things, because this is a way that we can address diversity. Important for is what other people say, the doctor, the team, the parents, the dentist, the justice system, what's needed for health and safety, but also what's needed so the person is seen as a valued member in their community. The third section is how to best support me. And it is not what the person can't do, but what others need to do. So it is almost directions. You write them like directions. When teaching me something new, tell me, show me, watch me, and then tell me how I did. Follow the behavior support guidelines. Don't tell me what to do. Give me two choices. You notice this language is not, Barb can't follow multi-step directions. It's when you teach me something, tell me, show me, watch me, tell me how I did. It's not Barb has sensitivity to noise. It is what you need to do. Remind me to wear headphones in a noisy place. Don't talk to me like I'm a child. So we often, and as families, we often want to do a brain dump. This is what you need to know about my family member. They take medications. They've been in the hospital 17 times. And I ask families who write that down on the one page. I said, first of all, it has to be one page. You've made it 3. We want it one page so everybody will read it. And who are you writing this for? Are they giving your family member medication? Oh, no, I give it. Then why are you listing the meds and what time they take them? Do they take them to their hospital and doctor's appointments? No, I do. Then why are you listing that? What do you want them to do? So here's my one page as a trainer. I'm going to go to the next one. I want you to think about a one-page description for yourself at work. And I think what I'm going to do is, hold on, give me a minute. All right, I think we're going to do this in chat. We're not going to do this in breakout rooms. We're going to do this in chat, I think. So what I want you to do, first of all, I want you to write what people, 1 or 2 qualities that your coworkers like and admire about you. Type it in chat. Qualities, not what you do, but qualities. If I asked your coworkers, what do you like about your coworker? What would they say? Uh-oh, none of you have anything to share? Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. What did you share? Supportive, transparency, accountable, funny, reliable, helpful, tenacious, dependable. I got to go back. Supportive, honest, direct, empathetic and humorous, get along with everybody, helpful and encouraging. Love it, love it, love it. These are the words that you want to hear when you ask people, what do people like and admire about you, or what do people like and admire about this person? And if they cannot give you qualities, you need to facilitate the conversation. So one gentleman told me, my employer likes that I make good flyers. I said, that's what you do. But what is your quality? And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, I do not make good flyers. So I'm assuming you're creative. He goes, oh, yes, I am. I said, that's your quality. What else does it take to make a good flyer? I said, I'm going to guess you're artistic. He goes, yes, I am. I said, okay. So we may have to help people identify and affirm their qualities. Just because somebody says he makes good flyers doesn't mean I'm going to write it down. I'm going to have further conversation. What does that mean? Now I want you to think about something that's important to you at work. I will tell you that what was important to me at work was that that I could have the first 15 to 30 minutes to organize myself, listen to voicemail. Whoever has their mic on, could you please mute? Make sure, something that was important to me is that I had that first half hour of quiet time to organize myself. Another thing that was important to me was that we start meetings on time. Because if you were late, you were wasting my time. And I don't want to hear your excuse. How many of you work with people who are notoriously always late and always have an excuse? I was talking to a family. I was doing this. That's why you have voicemail. Yes, it's important to you to have time between meetings, to have access to coworkers. Having the first hour free. Okay. I was notoriously early in the office, and one of my coworkers also had that habit. And so if my desk phone rang, I knew it was him. He is no longer with us, but I knew if he called, I'd answer the phone and go, good morning. And he'd be like, you are at your office. And I'd be like, yes. What do you need? Because you're the only person that calls me this early. So I did pick up the phone for him. And there was no caller ID. A flexible schedule. Awesome. Having coworkers you can go to ask questions. Thank you so much. So we want to hear from people. What's important to you? Is it watching the Ohio State games? Is it talking to your family member once a week or once a day? Is it checking Facebook? What's important to you? Awesome. I see more typing. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. Temperature in the office. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Mandatory meetings that have a purpose. Oh my God. Don't waste my time. And then now I want you to think about, what would you tell your coworker? Please support me. So for me, it was, except for this one coworker who called me first thing in the morning, and I knew he was going to, so it was okay. It was, don't bother me that first half hour. Another one was, if you see me walk in the building with my purse and my laptop on my shoulder, don't stop and talk to me. Wait till I get to my desk. Nothing can be that important. Another thing for me was, ask me if it's a good time. So what do you want your coworkers to do to support you? One SSA said, we were doing this as a department and at a county board, and she said, I don't want my supervisor to come up to me and say, come talk to me before you leave. She goes, because I will be so anxious for the rest of the day, thinking that I did something wrong. And her poor supervisor was like, oh my God, I don't say that. I'm so sorry. I'll be more conscious of, usually it's just, I see you and I think of something I want to say to you. Come see me before the end of your day, not I'm going to discipline you. And she goes, and please, another one said, please don't schedule supervisory meetings with me in the morning. I do better in the afternoon. So, what would you want your coworkers to know? Give me purpose, support me by showing up on time and allowing me quiet time before meetings. Absolutely. What else would you want your coworkers? Let's hear a couple more. And this is what we want to ask people. What do you want? When I work with people, I say, what do you want your providers to know? What do you want the staff to know? What do we want? And think about if we don't talk over me. Yes, don't talk about me. And think about if we wrote the information this way, how helpful it would be to a DSP, as opposed to telling them they are sensitive to light, they're sensitive to noise, keep eyes on in the community. What the heck does that mean? If I'm a DSP, what am I supposed to do? Tell me, remind him to wear headphones. Tell him, make sure he doesn't go cross a street alone, or don't let him go near children, or whatever it is. Also, a lot of people with lived experience will tell me, don't yell at me, don't raise your voice, and don't tell me I need to or I should. Checking in with coworkers, stop having meetings with no purpose, follow through with policies you enforce. Okay, having a supportive team, let me get settled and then we can address issues. Give me time to prepare, allow natural brainstorming to happen without an agenda. Awesome, awesome, very nice. So think about getting that kind of information from people when you're developing their plans, because that will help them have a good life and a good day. Let me know if I have offended you. Oh, wow, awesome. Don't tell me you're going to do something and then don't. Absolutely. Thank you for doing that as a collective. So let's talk a little bit more about the one-page descriptions. Remember, they're written for a purpose. So someone can have many one-page person-centered descriptions. They can have one for just a general one. They can have one for medical appointments. They can have one for going to church. They can have one for if they're in the hospital. They can have one when they're interviewing providers. And the reason we keep it to one page is everybody will read one page. Okay? People will not, if it starts getting, one mother did a 3-page single space with pictures, and she hired a new provider and gave it to her. And she said, what is this? And she goes, this is about my son. And it had things like his medication schedule, how many times he had been in the hospital for what. And she goes, I'm not going to read this. She said, first of all, it's too cluttered. Tell me what I need to know. I'm not going to take him to the doctor. I'm not going to take him to the hospital. And one mother, who I think she uses independent providers, she wrote, and I don't know what would cause the provider to call 911 because I don't know her son's medical condition, but it's, if this happens, call 911 first, call me second. The provider knows what to do. It's very clear. So this is a one page that I just love about my brother, Nick. You see it says Nick the Greek. It doesn't say Nick Seferis because that's what he liked to be called. Under great things, you see qualities. Under important too, I tried to capture relationships, things to do, people and places, routine, culture and identity, and status. He liked to have his hair styled, and he liked to wear stylish, comfortable clothing. How to best support. You see it's in quotes because he said it. Use a spoon to feed me. Don't read over my shoulders. I can hear and understand you. Don't yell or use a parent voice. Put me on my stomach with a pillow between my knees. Don't give me fruit. I'm most comfortable in my wheelchair. You don't need to have a feeding class. There's one phrase right there. And you see it's not full sentences. It's easy to read. It has a photograph. This is a one page that Tyler's family developed. Can you guess what's important to Tyler and how you can engage him in conversation? I'm hoping you do. So again, it doesn't have to be a form. It just has to have those 3 areas at least. And I always tell people, put a photo, because the photo makes it real. It makes it a person. Here's one for Tammy. It's the front page of her ISP. So just remember, it could be a Word doc. It could be text boxes. People like to put symbols, so they will put their mascots that they like. They might put Brutus from the Ohio State University. They might put one of the Cleveland teams or Cincinnati teams or Michigan or Pittsburgh. They might put a Marvel character, Star Wars, Star Trek. I'm trying to think of what I've seen. You can refer to other documents, follow the behavior supports. I tell people keep multiple copies, put one where anybody can see it. I've worked with some individuals receiving supports who have it in a plastic sheet protector. One woman put it in a frame. And when a new provider comes in her apartment to help her, she tells them, don't talk to me till you read my one page. How empowering is that? It isn't in a file, it's where everyone can see it. Some people keep it on their refrigerator. Recently, with COVID, we learned how important it is to have a one-page description for hospitalization. Again, it's definitely specifically related to being in the hospital. So what's important too may be related to the hospital. Make sure I have my cell phone. Tell me what's happening. Introduce yourself. Make sure I have the remote for the TV, or put the TV on and leave it because I can't manipulate the remote. How to best support. How to position them, how to maybe the fact that you have to speak up because they can't hear you, how they might show pain, how they might show anxiety, who to contact, how they express pain. Oh, good, good, good. Oh, awesome. Andrea, everybody read the comment she wrote about doing this for somebody who was hospitalized. And here's one for my brother. When I'm hospitalized, I can hear and understand you, don't yell. Again, how to feed him, how to put him in bed. I can't feel pain on my right side, because what's the first thing anybody asks when someone's in the hospital? What's your pain level, 0 to 10? If he said 0, I'd have to jump up and down. Wait, that only means his left side. He can't feel pain on his right side. How to give him pills, leave the TV on. So just some examples of one-page descriptions for hospitalization. And Tracy, if you are there, I forget. Oh my gosh, Tracy, I didn't put it in. Are you there, Tracy? Can you share your story?
I sure will. No
Thank you,
trouble at all.
Tracy.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So my daughter is a nurse over at the local hospital, and she had a patient. She's in a step-down unit from an ICU, and she had a patient show up in her step-down unit, come up from the emergency room, and this poor person had she was a 40-year-old autistic female. She had no clothes on at all. She was in a bed that she was zipped into. She was bloodied still. They had not cleaned her up, and she was clearly upset. my daughter took one look at this situation and she came and called me and she said, Mom, you've got something with this Charting the LifeCourse stuff that can help me here. So I should mention that she came in and she was with a provider. Her parents were 2 hours away at that time. Of course, the fall happened at the end of the provider shift, and the provider was exhausted. And what had happened to the poor woman was she had taken a fall from standing. She had knocked out all of her teeth. She had broken her nose and she had broken her orbit, her eye orbit. So I sent her a one-page person-centered description, and I said, gave her like a down and dirty 5 minutes on how to use it. And she went into the room and she worked with the woman, because as Barb will be very quick to tell you, and rightfully so, just because you're nonverbal doesn't mean you can't communicate, right? And with her provider. And she started asking questions. And like the first thing she wanted to know was, why is she still bloodied? And they said, because she's in pain. She had some ketamine, but no painkillers. And she wouldn't let them clean them up. And she said, well, what do you mean she hasn't had painkillers? And it's already come up today. She couldn't answer verbally on that scale of 1 to 10 what her pain level was. And they didn't know what to do. So they didn't give her anything. So she worked with the provider, and she said, tell me how she expresses pain. Tell me what that looks like. They were able to get it figured out, and they got pain medications ordered, and they were able to get her a little bit cleaned up. And of course, the next question is, why is she naked? What's happening here? We don't normally get naked patients. And she said, well, when she's in that hospital gown, it pulls around her neck. And if you've ever been in the hospital, you get in that gown, you kind of wiggle around, and it was pulling, and it was driving her crazy. So she just was pulling it off. So my daughter said, well, what does she wear at home? Well, she wears a sweatshirt and sweatpants. They were able to accommodate that. The hospital had scrubs, which was about the same thing, right? And it just so happened the provider grabbed a sweatshirt on the way out the door, and they had that. So they got some clothes in her. She's had some pain meds. She's starting to get cleaned up. And she said, she's still showing a lot of agitation, keeps trying to get out of this bed. She was zipped into it. What's up with that? And she said, well, she knows that she's in the hospital when she's in a bed. She doesn't normally sleep in a bed. And my daughter said, well, where does she sleep? And she said, a recliner. A recliner is much more comfortable for her. Well, great. So they out with the bed, and in came a recliner. And suddenly this woman's life starts to become a lot better, right? They spend a little time talking about what should go on the TV for her. What can we do to help her? Does she like popsicles? Does she like crayons? What can we do? I will tell you that the woman did have a 3-ring binder about 2 or 3 inches thick that had come up on the bed. And it was these kinds of instructions, a how to care for her sort of thing that the provider had remembered to grab. But the thing was, nobody in the emergency room opened that. They don't have time to read that. And then also nobody on the floor opened it. They weren't going to be able to. So they took this one page, they wrote it all down, they got her all taken care of, and they put it up on the wall behind her bed, so that as soon as you came in, or I should say at the head of the bed, everybody could read it. So here's what happened. The patient was obviously much better cared for. The provider felt like she could step out of the room, like she could go to the bathroom, get a cup of coffee, because there was information there. The nurses loved it, because they read on a chart that the patient has nonverbal autism, but what does that mean to them, right? And then finally, the provider came in, rounded in the morning, and said, this is amazing. I have all the information that I need medically in the chart, but I don't know anything about people. We should have this for everybody. So we loved that. And the provider actually reached out to me and asked for the link to the page, and now they're doing them on everybody that they work with.
Awesome. Awesome. And again, thank you so much, Tracy. Again, it's not about just filling out the form, but it's about having that conversation and capturing that information that's meaningful in that setting, the hospital setting. And for the doctor to come in and say, oh my gosh, this tells me now who I'm treating, who is this person? And it just changes the mindset, as you heard from Tracy. So we always talk about the why. Why would we do a one page? Excuse me. It introduces the person. It gives a quick summary, 1 page, everybody will look at it. And posting it above the bed or above her recliner. So when people walk in and they're talking to her, they see it. It's not something they have to go flip for. They don't have to search for it. It's right there. It's a summary. It also, when I've done it with people, it's such a self-esteem activity. What do people like about you? Some people have asked, and I tell them, ask your family, ask the people who know you. And I cannot tell you how many people have said to me, I never knew they liked this about me. I never knew they thought this about me. So it's great for self-esteem and for accommodations. As Tracy said, if somebody reads that somebody has nonverbal autism, so what? That tells me nothing. But if you tell me this is how she expresses pain, and this is how she's comfortable, and this is what we need to do, everybody needs to know. Everybody knows what to do. The other value, as far as identifying accommodations, is for those of you that work with students from 14 up, that they have to start being part of a transition plan, and part of that transition plan process is helping students identify accommodations they need. And by saying to people, remind me to wear headphones when I'm in a noisy environment, tell me how to do something, show me, or do a video and give me the video, that is an accommodation. And we're teaching people how to ask for the help that they need, not just say, I need help, but this is how to help me. So it has many, many purposes. As we think about the 1 page, how do you see the 1 page helping you perform your functions? Tell me how you think you could use it. Here are the functions. Does it help you assess, plan, budget, communicate, provider selection, empower, be seen as a valued member of your community? Type in chat. How do you think you might use the 1 page? And then we will shortly take a quick break. How will the 1 page help you do your job? And type in chat. I know some of you have said that you do it for people when they're hospitalized. I love it, Maria, as an introduction to lit advocacy meetings, to introduce themselves and break the ice. All of it. And those working with people have to read it. Absolutely. Absolutely. As I said, just writing it and having it in the file is worthless. You got to write it for whoever is going to read it. Yes, summarize the needs and also help that poor DSP. This is what you need to do. Reinforce to my child that he can self-advocate. Yes. Martha, I'm so glad you said that. A lot of people have said writing it and having it down on paper, when someone says, tell me a little bit about yourself, I can either push that 1 page description across the table, or I can look at it and share what's on the paper. Because when someone says, tell me about yourself, versus I've thought about it, I wrote it down, I have it. Hold on, I want to read some more. Oh, absolutely. When someone gets a new SSA, here's who the person is. Learn more about the person you're working with. Yes. I like to recommend independent providers to create one as an introduction to the person. Yes, Andrea. I also have had several SSAs say, wait a minute, if I'm asking them to do it, why aren't I doing one on myself and giving it to the people that I support? So they get to know a little bit about me. and including pictures or symbols. Like sometimes they'll put their dog on it, or they'll put some icons of what they like, so that the person gets to know them a little bit better, and to facilitate communication. Yes, 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 yes. Awesome, Natalie. When I like to tell families, do a one page at the beginning of the school year and give it to all the staff in the school. Absolutely. New staff training, so it's not so overwhelming. Staff can do their own during the new staff training. I love it. Yes, it can help avoid confusion and behaviors. I joke that it is a bragging about them sheet. Yes. And it's what they want others to know without asking. Okay, absolutely. And you know what, Hannah? We have taught people to identify themselves by what made them eligible for services. We have taught families to use that kind of language. And this is a way to talk about who are they as a human being and to see their value. I love it. Thank you, everybody. I love it. So our trajectory, which is one of the tools, what we want to see for the one page is that it's human-centric. It talks about who this human being is and what others need to do so that the person is respected, is comfortable. It has to be simple, 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 simple. And I tell people, you can have several. You can have one for school. You can have one for, one mom did one for her son who was going to go to church youth groups. And what do they need to know when they're with him for that hour and a half? I encourage people to put a photo because it really then shows who the person is. And it's not demographic information. It's not whether they have a guardian, how old they are, what their diagnosis is, what services they get. So a quick poll. I'm going to check and see if Tracy's on the call. She was having internet connections. So if we don't, if she's not back, that is okay. Oh, I love it. Loretta, somebody did their own artwork. I love it because it's about them and they should do whatever they want. So let's take a 5-minute break. I will set a timer. If Tracy comes back, she'll launch the poll. She was having internet connection. So let's take a 5-minute break, everybody. And I will see you in 5. Enjoy. Thank you, Tracy. We've got a minute left on the break. So give you another minute on your break and then we'll start again. Thanks, everybody. Tracy, I could have probably launched that. It didn't even occur to me. Jeez.
It's all good. I had to restart the whole computer, but I'm back. So thank
Okay,
you.
good. And I am on a text with the family member that they've seen the rehab place. It looks good. So I'm breathing a sigh of relief. They've never had to do this. I, on the other hand, have, but they never have. So I'm trying to be supportive. Okay, welcome back from break, everybody. Thank you for those of you that have answered the poll. Continue answering. So far, all of you are geniuses. But I'll let you continue with the poll. So let's go on to the next concept, and that is, what's a good life? I hate cliches, so I'm going to define what a good life is. It's not just something that we just say, oh, what's a good life? But a good life is that people have dreams. That you don't have a good life if all you get is what you're given. And so remember, one of our beliefs is that we want people to have high expectations. So what's a good life? What do you want to be able to do? A good life is you have people who believe in you. A good life is that you have what's important to you, which is why we ask, what is important to you? And we look at those 8 areas. A good life is that you're respected and valued. So how do we know people are respected and valued? Well, we know their qualities, and then are we helping them share those qualities and those gifts in their community? That they have more good days than bad, because none of us have all good days, that they feel healthy and safe in their own definition, and that they have control over their life. So that's a good life, okay? It's defined. It's not just a cliche we throw around. So if I think about my brother Nick, did he have a good life? Did he have what was important to him in his life? I think he did. Did he have dreams? Oh yeah, he wanted to go to Disney all by himself without anybody else with a disability. The top picture, he wanted to drive, but what drive meant to Nick was not that the car moved, okay, but that he sat in the driver's seat and we took pictures. That he had more good days than bad. I hope that's the life he had. I want to believe it, because even when he was at the end of his life and he knew it, he had hospice supports to make sure he was comfortable and not in pain. So I hope that he had that good life, that he had more good days than bad. And the correct answer on the poll is it helps us do everything. It helps us empower people. It helps interview providers. It can be to introduce the person to a potential employer, provider, teacher, or others who help, including family members. Did Nick feel healthy and safe? Yes, I think he did. And did he have control? Absolutely. I was not his guardian. I did not want to be his guardian. But I also made sure that he made all the decisions affecting his life and that he had all the information, including the negative consequences. So here is Chris Nikic. I just love Chris's story. He's the first person with Down syndrome to participate in and successfully complete an Ironman competition. You see what the Ironman is. But what I really love is on the left, his parents had a big whiteboard in the house, big whiteboard. But part of it, they had him write down his dreams. He wants to buy his own car, buy his own house, get a smoking hot blonde wife from Minnesota. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Chris is from Florida, so I don't know why he thinks the smoking hot blonde wife comes from Minnesota, but hey, that's his dream. He wants to have his own money to take care of his family, and he wants to be a famous public speaker. Why is it so important to write down your dreams? Because we know from psychological studies that we are more likely to work towards our dreams and outcomes if we write them down. So think about for yourself, how many of you have developed a vision board? How many of you have written your dreams down? How many of you have written a plan to help you get to your dreams? So what we want, when we look at a trajectory for a good life, the common themes, and these are themes, when we're actually working with people, we want to get details. But the themes are that we have friends, family, money, a job, a safe place to live. But we also ask people what they don't want. That's just as important. And we, especially for families, families often can tell, and people with lived experience can often tell us what they don't want versus what they do want. And what I hear most from people with lived experience is they don't want to be bossed around. They don't want to be around the same people all day. And their number one don't want is drama. And I have to ask them what drama means, because it means something different for everybody. I don't want people in my face. I don't want people yelling. I don't want people bossing me around. For families, if I ask them, what don't you want? I don't want my loved one to be taken advantage of financially, emotionally, sexually, verbally. I think that's it. And if I ask people, what do you want, your outcomes, a lot of times people will tell me what we've told them to tell us. I want a job in the community. I want to be independent. I want to live in the community. And I'm like, but what do you want to do? You know, that's what we've told you. And we ask you, where are you on your path to employment? But what do you want to do? What kind of job do you want? What kind of job don't you want? And again, it's facilitating conversations, using the tools to get more information that's meaningful and not just cliches. Independent, community job, community living, cliches. Here's an example of Ben's. And what I want to emphasize is this is a trajectory, the solid line to a good life, but sometimes we go down towards that, what we don't want. And as a team, how are we helping people get back on track? Here's an expanded or planning trajectory that looks not only at what does Ben want, what doesn't he want, but what's happened in the past that's helping him go towards that life that he wants. What happened in the past that took him down towards the life he didn't want, and what needs to happen in the future to have the life and to stay away from what he doesn't want. And Ben's mother often shares the story of how she fought to have a paraprofessional with Ben one-on-one in high school. And she realized that that paraprofessional was actually isolating him from his fellow students, because who's going to talk to a high schooler when there is an adult female right next to him, a paraprofessional? And so she said that really helped isolate him. And she said, I realized that after I fought so hard that this was not going to help him have friends, hang out with the guys, and be seen as one of the guys. We want to remember that when we look at a trajectory, we want people to not be defined by their past, but that recognizing that it's a lesson. So I'm not going to ask how many of you are divorced, how many of you were in a relationship that maybe was toxic for you. I would hope that your friends don't keep referring to that, but recognize that you had that experience, you learned from it, and you move on. Just like Ben's mom said, that one-on-one was not good. And so we didn't advocate for a one-on-one. And we're very conscientious about how his provider now spends time with him when he volunteers, because we don't want people to not engage with him because there's a staff next to him at all times. This is an exploring trajectory, so it just has, what do you want? What don't you want? Sometimes I use this with people and with families first, just to get them conversing and thinking about, what do you want? What don't you want? Before I start asking about what happened in your past. It's a good way to build trust. Those of you that work in the field, you know that it's also a good way for you to identify the outcome for the ISP, for the IFSP, and for the IEP. So having this conversation helps them identify, but also helps you complete your paperwork. Sometimes people have a hard time thinking about what is a good life. So in chat, we're going to use chat, not the breakout rooms. Think about your own good life. What is a good life for you? And don't say family and friends. Is it having a meal every week with the whole family and no electronics? Is it having game night? Is it FaceTiming with maybe a family member who's not nearby? Is it going out with friends once a month? Is it being able to go on vacation? Think about your good life and type something in chat that you're comfortable sharing. Having our granddaughter and great nephews spend the night once a month. Oh, I love it. And Nancy, thank you for being so detailed. What I love about that is, if my job is a service coordinator or a provider, and I had to help you make sure that you have your granddaughter and great nephew over once a month, I would know exactly what to do, as opposed to family. Okay, I wouldn't know what I had to do to help you. Being on vacation centered around, centered around the kids and grandkids. Yes, that tells me I already have a picture in my mind, Loretta. Evenings when my son reads to me each night. Oh, see, what I love about the way you're describing your good life is this is it's observable and it's measurable. And as we talk to people, we don't want cliches. Live in the community job. I want to know, what do you want to do? I want to work with animals. I want to volunteer. I want to volunteer at a nursing home. Whatever. Healthy love life, non-toxic. Awesome, Joanna. You're writing so fast, it keeps jumping. Sorry, folks. Keeping things simple when possible, slow, purposeful step towards goals, having fun with people I love, getting a night out with my two best friends. Life gets in the way sometimes, yes. Being able to plan a vacation with my kids and granddaughter, having a job I absolutely love as a DSP. Oh, that's awesome, Joanna. I'm so glad. I want to hike Mount Rainier. Oh my gosh, how cool, with my daughter in 2024. My preteen and teenage sons will still tell me they love me in front of their friends. Oh, I love it. Having time to myself to do what I want. Absolutely. I love it. So as you're having conversations with people and you're asking them what their outcome is, please, if they start identifying services, have a more in-depth conversation. Tell me more about what that means. What does it mean to live in the community? Do you want to live in an apartment? Is there a certain neighborhood? So we actually know, as opposed to they want to live in the community, so we found an apartment 20 miles from where they live now. And I say this as someone who worked in Cuyahoga County, where for me to go from one corner of Cuyahoga to the other corner, it could take me 45 minutes. So just because we found them a place in Cuyahoga County didn't mean we found them a place close to where they wanted to be or where they knew. So get the conversation going, get the details. So another poll I want you to think about is, during the pandemic, and it's not gone away, but anyway, what are you missing or did you miss during the height of the pandemic? I listed all the things that are important to people, those 8 categories, and you could pick as many as you want. As soon as, Tracy had internet connections. Is she back on? If she's not back on, let me see if I can launch the poll. Oh, now I'm really testing my, Can I launch the poll? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just think about what you missed. It's okay. We'll skip the poll. So whenever you do the trajectory, you always, thank you. We're not going to skip the poll. You didn't get off, so answer the poll. What did you miss during the pandemic? Or perhaps what are you missing now? Still missing. I know I haven't traveled yet, so that's something I'm missing. I'm going to soon, but I haven't, so it's like, oh no, what am I going to do? And I'll let you work on the poll, and I'm going to keep moving. So sometimes somebody may tell us what's important to them as an activity. And if things change, we may have to help them identify what did they really like about their job or going to live concerts. And is there another way to do that? So as I'm supporting a family member that could be discharged from the hospital today, woo, we're all struggling with, he is not going to be able to have what's important to him in the same way. So how can we make sure he has what's important to him when he's in rehab and not in his apartment? This is the planning trajectory. Again, I'm not going to teach you how to do it because that would take more time, but it's again looking at what do they want, what don't they want, what's happened in the past that's helped them. For me during COVID, when I had to, when there was a shutdown and I had to move to virtual training, it was like, well, okay, I had worked at home for years, so that was not a problem. I had a laptop and all the technology at home. That was not a problem, but I had never initiated a Zoom call or knew how to set up Zoom. So that was something I had to learn moving forward, how to use Zoom. I'm not going to have you do it, but think about your own life in during the pandemic, because that is one time in our life where our good life changed immediately. What we thought was a good life changed immediately, and we had to adapt. We had to change. We had to learn new skills. We had to learn how to interact with people in a different way. So what did your trajectory look like? The trajectory, as I said, should never be done in a team meeting. Never, never, never. That is about personal outcomes. You can have that conversation with somebody, and I've had that conversation. Let's talk about what you want to do in your life, but not in an ISP meeting or an IEP meeting. People need time to think. We can start the conversation, and then they can finish it. Once you have a trajectory for someone, it can help keep people on track. So I was working with a group from all over the country yesterday, and one of the providers, service coordinators, said, you know, maybe we should start each team meeting about this person, because we're mandated to meet quarterly, with reviewing their trajectory to keep us on track. Not to focus on, are the services being delivered? Is the billing up to date? But are we helping them have their life that they want? And are the services I authorized helping them move towards their good life? And I thought, what a great way to keep the team on track. We want EI. Some of you work with little kids. We want families to start thinking about, what is there a good life for their baby or their infant? And for them to think about that vision. And when I've asked families in EI, you know, they tell me things like, I want them to find a passion in their life. I want them to have people who love them other than just their parents, us, their parents. I want them to find something they love to do. I want them to have friends. Well, if that's their vision, then that should guide everything that they do and every decision they make along the path of that child's life. The trajectory can be broad. It can be for a year. But I've also had people develop a trajectory just for a short period of time. So I've shared with you that a family member of mine has been in intensive care, then moved to a general hospital floor in Cleveland. And we think he might be discharged today to rehab. His trajectory from the perspective of the family changed on the day he was admitted to ICU. And it became very short term. And the short term was, when is he going to be discharged and where is he going to go? And where can he go that will keep him safe, comfortable, and still have the life he values? And that trajectory has guided everyone's decision for the past 2 weeks that he's been in the hospital. So it can be a short-term trajectory, very focused, or it can be broad. It could be 5 years. And I see there's comments in the, okay. Awesome. So here's a group of people with lived experience. They kind of did their trajectory like a vision board. Some of them drew, some of them wrote, some of them cut out pictures, some of them did all of the above. But that's their good life. And I did this with one group of, I was in the room with one group of people who did this. And I told them, if you need help, we're going to walk around. And one woman had her vision was a cutout of a blue coat, a blue dress, a blue skirt, a blue blouse, blue shoes, blue sweater. Did I miss anything? And I said, I know we said you didn't have to share, but can I ask you a question? And she said, sure. I said, why blue? Why is this your vision? And she said, Barb, I need new clothes and my favorite color is blue. I said, who are you going to share this with? And she said, my provider. I said, good idea. So she told us in a very clear, concise way what her vision was. This trajectory was completed during a Project STIR training in Canton, Stark County, that I was part of and present. And after 2.5 days, we asked people, write one thing describing your good life on a Post-it note, or have your ally write it down and bring it up to the board. And we put it, the top part is what they want, the bottom is what they don't want. And it was very, very powerful. When the superintendent of Stark County came, because we like to thank the host county, Bill Green, yeah. I said, Bill, go look at the trajectory. This is what the people you support want and what they don't want. And in his next newsletter, he talked about the Project STIR training, talked about how powerful it was, and actually took some of the Post-it notes and put it in his article. So this is a collective vision, what this group of people wants. I've seen the trajectory used even for projects. You know, what do we want? In Ohio, the Family Resource Network of Ohio has used a trajectory to identify what we want when we're working on a project. You have seen me show you a trajectory of how we see each of the tools being used. So we have another poll, and if Tracy can launch it, because I still haven't figured out how to do it. And if she is having difficulty, we will just move on, and it is okay. So a trajectory, let me just tell you the correct answer. I'm not going to tell you. You can't cheat. You have to answer. So please answer the poll. You can choose all that apply. And I will keep moving, but I will keep the poll up. I want to see the results. So sometimes when we ask people, what do you want? What is your good life? They really are so used to telling us services. And so to help facilitate the conversation, you might have to talk about the 6 life domains. And what do you want? What do you want to do during the day? So you see, each of the domains has an icon that captures, we hope, the content, and it has a title and a little bit of a definition. So if you think about the life domains, this is the way we talk about our life. You know, when you meet somebody, what's the first thing you ask them? What do you do? Where do you live? Oh, I know some people there. I know some people who live there. My friends live in this neighborhood or on this street, or I go to church in that city. Healthy living. Oh, have you checked out the parks? Do you go to a gym? Safety and security. Isn't it great? There's so many neighborhoods there that you can walk around in. And advocacy and engagement, you know, are you part of any groups? Do you belong to any civic groups or any kind of advocacy groups? A tool that I like to give to people and families is called the Vision tool. And anyone can fill it out. So it says name of person completing. So it could be mom on behalf of her child. It could be the person on behalf of themselves. It could be the provider on behalf of a person. And the first column, again, is the icon. The second column is the title and a quick definition, not a total definition, a quick definition. And then the third column is white space, where I've seen people draw pictures, I've seen people write, I've seen people use a scribe. They'll tell somebody what they want and they'll write it down for them. But asking that question, what do you want to do during the day? Also honoring and remembering that people can say, I want to do what I'm doing right now. And also remembering that people may not want to discuss every domain. This isn't a homework assignment for people. This is to help you have the conversation and help people think broadly about their good life. And then the fourth column, people can rank it if they want. They can prioritize. Some people just write high and low. Some people do 1, 2, 3, 4. Some people do 1 and 2 only. Some people don't rank it at all. Remember, this is not a form to complete. This is a tool to help facilitate conversation. People fill it out the way they want to. It is not a homework assignment. You know, you got to fill out every space. And I've worked in the field for 45 years. One of the disservices we've done to staff is when we give them a form, they are told they have to fill it out completely. That is not the case when we're using Charting the Life course. It's to facilitate conversation. And some people will say, I can only focus right now on healthy living because my loved one is facing medical issues. I don't even want to talk about the other domains. Don't even ask me. We're not going to go there. And that is okay, because remember, who drives the process? So I love the vision tool because you can have multiple people fill it out. The mom can fill it out separately from the dad, from the person, from a sibling. I've had sibling pairs do a vision tool on each other so that it helps conversation. And one brother told his sister, who had recently moved to Ohio from out of state. She moved to Ohio because her brother lived with their parents, and the dad had recently died. And so mom was the full-time caregiver, the support. And so the sister moved back to Ohio. And the brother knew why she moved back, to help mom. And when they did their vision for each other, I asked them if who felt comfortable sharing, and they said they would share. And I said, you only have to share what you're comfortable with. And he shared, I want my sister to find a good man for a husband. She had one that wasn't good. And now that she's come back to Ohio to help mom, I want someone that will also love and take care of her. And I just went, oh. And sis said, I know, it blew me away too, because he's never said that to me. But how powerful to hear that from your brother. It also validates that mom and dad may have different visions from each other and from their son or daughter or loved one. And that's okay. You know, no family has consensus. If your family has consensus, I want to meet your family. Invite me over to dinner. I don't eat meat, but I'll eat anything else. Because I just don't believe it. But it helps identify common areas. Oh, okay, you all agree on this. Let's work on this. There's some difference of opinion here. Let's find out why. And you can get clarity instead of everybody has to agree and sing kumbaya. So again, think about how you might use the trajectory and vision tool to help you. And I'm not going to ask you to give me ideas right now, but you know, it can help you do a lot of things. It's not just useful for one function. I'm going to go on to the next thing. So when we talk about the trajectory, we not only talk about the trajectory towards a good life, but above the line, above the life stages, here are the life stages from infancy through aging. You see that there's a trajectory of life experiences. So having chores. And I tell people in EI, what chores does your son or daughter have? Give them a chore. It could be just putting their dirty pajamas wherever. It could be putting their toys back on a shelf or in a toy box. It could be taking their sippy cup and putting it on the counter. But start giving young children chores. Why? Because it teaches them sequencing. It teaches them responsibility. And it teaches them that they have a valued role in their family. I help. As an SLP, one of the first things we would teach people that used augmentative communication, signs, symbols, device, pictures, pictures, anything, was how to say no. Why? Because by teaching someone to say no, you're teaching them they have control over their life. So this is a trajectory of life experiences. This is a trajectory of our life stages. And below the life stages is a trajectory of what a family goes through. So they get a diagnosis, they go to early childhood, they leave early childhood, they go to school. They go to school, they go through transition. Then they go into adulthood. So there is a booklet. Oh, there is a booklet. I'm going to have to take that, call that person back in a minute. So let me do a little bit and then I'll return the call. There's a booklet in the bottom right-hand corner. Experiences and questions. We gave you a link. It really helps people look at the different domains across the life stages. You can find it on lifecoursetools.com under Life Course Library, under Exploring Life Stages. And the value of this booklet is that it helps people look at what they should think of next. So here's a 2-page spread for daily life and employment. Excuse me, I just need to send her a text. But it also gives you considerations, things to think about from infancy all the way to aging. With families and also as professionals, if you are working with kids in school age, here are some questions to ask about daily life and employment. But also you should look at the life stage before, which is early childhood. Did we think about those things? And then anticipatory guidance, what's coming next? If I'm working with school age kids, I need to start having conversations with them about transition. You know, what do you want to do? How can people help you? And so look at the stage the person is in, look at the previous stage, and look at the next stage. And that's anticipatory guidance. We want to help families start thinking, not just thinking about what's happening today, but what do I need to think about in the future? The booklet is free to download. We gave you the link, but also I gave you the website on that slide. There's also these quick guides. They are 4-pagers. There's one for each life stage from early childhood to aging. And they can be found on lifecoursetools.com. Then go to library and then exploring life stages. Let me show you, let me take you through one. I like to tell professionals, download this and email it to families, print it out. It's 4 pages. The first page talks about the life stage, so adulthood. And it defines adulthood. Remember, we're not going to use cliches. We want to be clear and transparent. What's adulthood? It's that time after we transition from school to the time we enter our golden years. I love that phrase because I am in my golden years. And so that's a nice way to think about it as opposed to I'm old. The second page gives people information about 3 of the 6 life domains. So you see the icon, you see, okay, Arlene, I'll answer in a minute. Thank you for the question. You have the icon, daily life and employment, a little bit about what it means, and then you have some conversational considerations. You know, what is something you've always wanted to learn about or do? What would you like to do? What kind of living options have you thought about? And I always ask people, do you want to live in an apartment? Do you want to live in a house? Do you want to live in the city? Do you want to live in the country? Do you want to live with somebody? but having, giving people things to think about. Do you want to live by a bus stop? Do you want to be able to walk to places? So 3 of the life domains, that's on page 2. On page 3 are the next 3 life domains: social and spirituality, healthy living, and advocacy and engagement. And then on page 4, what services and supports do you need to think about? And then what might your family need as supports? So again, it's 4 pages. It levels the playing field. It uses common language. We give it to families to think about, for your meeting, I'm going to be talking about these 6 domains, or as we progress to your planning meeting, we're going to talk about these 6 domains and thinking about what kind of life do you want. Here's a resource for you that describes these 6 domains and might help you think about and have that conversation with me. We also want to help people think about services beyond the service system. And we talk about traditional options. So where I live, training centers in national language are state institutions, developmental centers. But there are islands of excellence. There are programs in some states helping people buy their own home, having shared living space, maybe living with a college student, maybe living with somebody who is older, maybe living with a family. And innovative housing options, they aren't even developed yet. How they're supported, staff hired by a provider, which is how most people in Ohio are supported, but there's other options: assistive technology, remote monitoring. Some families in some states have set up time banks. I'll take your son or daughter to this activity that my son or daughter goes to if you will teach them how to cook or whatever, and they might set up time banks. They might set up micro boards. I don't hear of too many micro boards in Ohio. I know Pennsylvania, the Family to Family Network helps families set up micro boards. And then what people do during the day, not only day hab, but can they set up their own business? Do they go to college or tech schools? I loved at the one Project Stir training, one gentleman said, I want a career in IT. And I stood up and cheered. And everybody in the room just kind of looked at me like, what is her problem? But it was the first time I heard someone say they wanted a career, not a job. And I was so excited, because how many of us talk about having a career, not just a job? In some countries, people with developmental disabilities can serve in the military or on AmeriCorps and Vista. Here's a chart we sent you. It helps you also think about traditional options, which are on the bottom, some more creative in the middle, and then innovative, new ideas and things that maybe we aren't even doing. I've seen agencies use this chart to even look at what are we providing that's traditional, what are we providing that's more community-based and creative, and then what do we need to look at? Maybe we need to change how we provide services and be more innovative. So, you had a question. Let me go back to your question. Arlene, question about the trajectory. Do you also use it to fill out yourself instead of them filling it out? Depending on your role, if you are a family member, you can fill out a trajectory from your perspective, what you want. But I also, if you're a family member, would encourage you, if your loved one does not use words and cannot answer the questions, that you fill it out from their perspective. So maybe a good life for them is that they sit and watch TV for 6 hours a day. Maybe a good life from your perspective is that they don't watch TV for more than 2 hours a day. I don't know. I'm just making it up. And if you are filling a trajectory out for them, please, please, please only do it if you are having conversations and you are recording it. So I met a mom who took a Charting the LifeCourse training before COVID. And she said, my son just moved into his own apartment. He's 25. He will not talk to us about what he wants in his life, because he now feels that since he's in his own apartment, he doesn't have to talk to us. And yet, I would like to know so I can help him. So she said, I know he won't talk to us. Would you talk to him? And I said, I'd be happy to if he's willing to meet me. I did not know him. I met with him. She arranged it. He said I could meet him in his apartment. He wanted mom and dad to be nearby. So it was a summer day in Cleveland and they sat outside. I was in the apartment. I met him for 45 minutes. I had the whole portfolio with me and I just talked to him. So I see you have a new apartment. I see you have a lot of posters up. Do you like this kind of movie? Yeah, I, blah, 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 blah. Just out of conversation, I filled out the 1 page, the trajectory of what he wanted and didn't want. And I also started filling out the integrated star just based on our conversation. And then I turned to him. I told him, I'm going to take notes while we talk. I'm going to give you the paper I'm writing on. So I'm not going to take it away from here. It's yours. And every so often I would check. I heard you say this. Is that an outcome you want? Is that something you want to work on? I heard you say this. Did I get it right? And then I reviewed it. And then after about 45 minutes, I could tell he was getting tired. I said, let me share with you what I wrote. If there's anything you want me to change, let me know. I'm going to give this to you. So that is one way that I would use the trajectory or any tool to write on for the person. I write on it based on the conversation we're having, and I give the paper to the person. I hope that answered your question, Arlene. If not, clarify for me. But I would never fill it out for someone because then it's not their trajectory, it's my trajectory for them. Oh, okay, great. And like I said, if you're the family member, absolutely, you can do your perspective of what I see a good life is. So what our trajectory for the trajectory, what we want is that we use the trajectory for the family and the person to gather their thoughts, that staff can start the conversation and write on it what they hear. And you can have multiple trajectories, like I said, one from mom, one from dad, one from the person, but it belongs to the person and the family. And it should never be done in a team meeting. It's not a team conversation. This is the life I want. Okay. So again, I'm going to ask you now, think about the resources that I just shared with you about the trajectory. So that booklet, the 4-pager, the Exploring Life Possibilities, how might you use any of those, the experiences and questions, the 4-pager, or the Exploring Life Possibilities? How can you see yourself using those? Or maybe you have already. Share with us what you've done. Type it in chat. If any of you are providers of day program or residential supports, you can use these tools plus the vision tool and the trajectory to teach advocacy, to teach self-determination, and you can build. Having people think about those 6 domains, having people write it down or have it someone scribe it, sharing it in their team meeting, sharing it with their family. And I'm waiting for anybody to type in chat. Any ideas? No ideas. Okay. If you're a teacher, I don't know if there are any teachers on the call. You can even use the booklets. I have my first one sitting on my desk to start the ISP planning process. I plan to use the life possibility sheet to help us plan what middle school to send our child to. Awesome. So helping you with decision making. Absolutely. What kind of services do they provide? Are they innovative or are they just the same old, same old? Awesome. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you. So the last resource or tool that I want to talk about is the integrated support star. I want to check my, yeah. Once you have an outcome, one gentleman told me he wanted to be able to go to karaoke at a certain bar. And so we put it in the integrated star. We put it in the center. That's what we're going to focus on. And then we looked at personal strengths and assets. We always start with personal strengths because we want to validate that the person has skills and strengths. So personal strengths and assets, he knew what he wanted to do. That's the #1 personal strength. Somebody can tell us what they want to do. He knew a bar that had karaoke. He's done karaoke before. Technology, he knew how to use a microphone. But one of the things that he didn't have was a lift van to get to karaoke. So we can split the star and write what we have and what we need. Relationship-based. His family couldn't help him get there because he didn't have a van. He lives in a very rural area. So under community-based, we knew the bar had karaoke. We knew that it was pretty close to his house, but too far for him to use his power chair. Under eligibility specific, we looked at he got a waiver, he had no provider. So looking for a provider that had an accessible vehicle or a way to support him to get to karaoke. So we use the split star. I should have gone one slide ahead. Sorry about that. Where you can look at the outcome and then look at what supports does the person currently have and what supports do they need. So think about in your own life, we use supports all day. Let me think of an example. I want to make sure I'm not going ahead of myself. Let me go back to just the plain integrated services and support star. Think about getting up in the morning. What supports do you have? What are your personal strengths? Do you wake up on your own? You have an internal clock? Do you make your own coffee? Do you pick out your own clothes? I say that as a sister to 2 brothers who often the one brother could match clothes, the other one not a prayer. So he'd always be like, sis, do these match? Can I wear this with this? Technology. What technology do you use in the morning? Do you use an electric coffee pot? Do you use an electric toothbrush? Do you use an app on your cell phone, your smartphone? Do you wake up to the alarm on your smartphone? Do you use Google Maps? Do you check the weather app? Don't just think about technology as assistive technology, but technology we all use. Do you use an app for reminders? Relationship. Does anybody in your family wake you up because they're done in the bathroom and it's your turn? Does anybody in your family pack your lunch? Does anybody that you live with make the coffee because they're up first? Do you have a four-legged family member that wakes you up because they need to go out or they want to eat? Community-based. Do you stop for coffee anywhere? Do you take public transportation? And then eligibility specific. We all have eligibility specific supports. Don't think you and I don't. I am hoping you have health insurance. Do you take any medications that your health insurance pays for? Do you participate in any wellness activities that your insurance pays for? Do you go to the gym? Do you use anything else that you are eligible for because of your employment? So we can also use a split star. What supports does someone have? What do they need? The integrated support star, if we think about the concept that we can't just look at eligibility specific supports, but we need to look at community-based, we need to look at strengths that the person or the family brings, is in line with the CMS settings rule, which says we need to promote full access to community life and promote lives that people want to live. So let's look at personal strengths and assets. I think I told you that my brother had an outcome. He wanted to go to Disney World, Disney World, on vacation, on his own, without any other person with disabilities. So that meant he needed to have somebody go with him who could take care of him. So his personal strengths and assets, he knew what he wanted to do. He told the team. He knew he had to save money. He knew how to save money. He knew how to use the internet. He also had a family that was supportive of this outcome. Relationships. Don't just look at who can actually go on vacation with Nick, but who has information? Look at ICE. Who has connections? Who might have experience? So when we looked at relationships, the minute Nick said, I want to go to Disney, I don't want to go with anybody else, I want to go alone, we started looking at, my family started saying, what does he need? We buy him Christmas and birthday presents. What does he need? Does he need luggage? Does he need clothes? We can use Christmas and birthday to get him things that he needs for his trip so he doesn't have to worry about it. Okay. Friends, anybody, the minute people heard, I just went to Disney, what do you want to know? I have some books we used. Here's a good website. I had a family member say, does he need a travel agent? Because I know somebody who knows somebody. So acquaintances. And again, what I'll tell you and what I tell families is, we can't help you work towards an outcome that you don't tell us. And a lot of families don't want to admit that they need help. And so this really helps them start thinking about broadly. Maybe I do have support that I didn't recognize before. Technology, Nick had a power chair, so we had to figure out, how is that power chair going to get to Florida? Nick had apnea. Are we going to take that apnea machine? Nick used a laptop to communicate with voice output. Was he going to take that laptop to Florida? All sorts of, he could use a laptop to search on the internet for information. Community resources. He could have gone to the library. He could have used a travel agent. Sometimes communities have travel clubs where people will talk about different places they've gone. I don't know if they had any. And then eligibility specific. We had to look at one thing that I didn't even consider. If anything happened to his wheelchair in Florida, he was tied to a provider in Ohio and Ohio Medicaid. And so the physical therapist said, you know, if anything happens to the chair in Florida, how could we get it repaired? And so she talked to the Ohio vendor. If we need anything in Florida, is there any reciprocity? Something I had never, ever thought of. And something happened to the wheelchair when it got loaded on the plane, but it was still functional until he came back from Florida. So it helps brainstorm, it helps problem solve. And I think what I want to do, how many of us are there on the call? I think I'm going to stop sharing and look at the options I have under the groups. Let's brainstorm one of the options. Writing a book, teaching people about history, driving a car, sharing my passion about trains, working with children, making a quilt, being a photographer. Somebody pick one and type it in chat. A couple of you, and I'll see if there's a consensus or a one that appeals, and let's talk about it. What would you, these are all outcomes that someone I know articulated to their team. Okay, we got 2. Let's see what we got. Okay, drive a car. All right. Let's look at the star again. Let me go back to a full star. Personal strengths. Unmute. What's a personal strength the person has if they say they want to drive a car?
Observant.
Okay, what else? Keep going. Unmute.
They know what they want.
Yes. What else?
Independence.
Okay, meaning what to drive a car?
The want to be independent on their own and
Oh.
get access to community without relying on somebody else.
Okay, so they have a desire to be
Mhm.
able, okay, awesome. What else?
Having a job and knowing kind of the bills they'd have to pay for gas, insurance, all that stuff.
Awesome. I'm so glad you said that. I worked with a gentleman who had a job and he wanted to buy a car. And the day after he bought the car, he came to the county board office where I worked and said he quit his job. And we said, why? And he goes, I bought a car. We were like, oh my gosh, you have to pay for insurance and you have to pay. Yeah, so we kind of learned that the hard way. Some other personal strengths might be, maybe he has had the opportunity to drive with his parents, right? Or she. Maybe they've had some virtual experience. What else? Driving a car. Go ahead. Oh, I thought somebody was going to say something. What technology might help somebody learn how to drive a car? Excuse me.
A computer,
Okay, to do what?
practice the safety signs, practice the test.
Awesome. Awesome. What else? Don't forget virtual reality.
looking at different driver's ed classes. There's one with Kettering Brain and Balance where they kind of do it with occupational therapists. They do like a simulator, and then occupational therapists assess kind of at what driving speed is it unsafe for them.
Awesome, awesome, great ideas. And virtual reality. How about relationships? Oops, I'm sorry, who could help them?
Driving schools?
Okay, that might be under, it's okay, that's good, but it might go under community resources, something that anybody can access, driving schools. Maybe they can have their parents take them out and on meaningful drives, or take them to a parking lot and just have them sit behind the wheel. I don't know. And community resources, like you said, driving schools. And then eligibility specific. Anybody got any ideas? Are there any programs in Ohio for people who want to learn how to drive that have, go ahead.
Our county board has access training so they can prepare for the driver's test, the written driver's test. Okay,
so that's eligibility specific. Awesome. Thank you. So it helps people think broadly. It's not just the county board, but driving schools, virtual reality, going online and practicing taking the test, or maybe taking a course online to get you ready. Awesome. Very, very nice. So I always tell people, start with, I'm going to go ahead. Start with personal strengths and assets because we want it to be strength-based. We want people to recognize that they may have resources. Another resource might be that they have access to a car. I was on a call yesterday with a gentleman in Maine who works for a provider agency, and they're starting a program where they're taking 14 people into supervised apartments to help them learn some skills so they can then eventually transition to their own apartment. So they have supports, and one of the supports that this 14 unit apartment complex is going to have is a car, so that those individuals who want to learn how to drive will have, or who have a driver's license, will have access to a vehicle. And I thought, how cool is that? Because the expectation is some of the people we're supporting are either going to get their license or want to get their license. So we need to be able to provide them that support. We sent you this chart, integrated support options. You see on the left side are the life domains. Across the top are the 5 points of the star, starting with personal strengths and assets, ending with eligibility specific. So we start with personal strengths because we want people to be strengths-based. We end with eligibility specific because we don't want people to always start with, well, what can I get? What will the waiver pay for? We want people to think more broadly and be more community-based and community-focused. This is a chart for your reference. 4 of the domains are on the front. The other 2 plus supports for the family and integrated support options are on the second page. It's a great resource to help you think about what technology should I be thinking about? What are possibilities? But it also helps families think about options. So I always give this chart to families. So the integrated star can be used to help brainstorm possibilities. This one can be done by a team. It's better to have, that collective mind thinking about things. You start with personal strengths, you end with eligibility specific. And the other thing I've seen when teams have brainstormed is that different members of the team may be aware of resources that the service coordinator working with the person doesn't even know about. And I have also seen people do the integrated STAR as they try to map resources in the community. So I've seen EI do a integrated support STAR. What's available to the families and the kids, 0 to 3. I've seen transition specialists do a STAR just for transition youth. What are the possible supports? I've seen agencies do an integrated STAR. What supports do we have and we offer, and which ones do we need to develop? Like, what other agencies do we need to develop relationships with? What community entities do we need to develop relationships with? So it helps brainstorm. It helps look at community resources and non-eligibility resources. And also supervisors have told me it helps them when someone comes to them and says, I'm supporting someone who wants to, and I know the waiver can't fund it or we can't provide it. And it helps think about possibilities in the community. So I'm going to move ahead. So here are the functions that a lot of you in the service system and families, you have to assess, you plan. Families, you're always looking at a budget. What will the insurance pay for? What do I have to pay? How to communicate and coordinate with others. God knows families do that the best because we have to. How to assist with provider selection, how to find providers. Ongoing review. Are we doing what we said we were going to do? Is it helping people have the life they want? Are we empowering people so they can use the tools and not just depend on us? And are we helping people be seen as valued members of their community? So during this 3 hours, I have covered the 1 page, the trajectory, the domains, the vision tool, the integrated STAR, the integrated support options, the experiences and questions booklet, the 4-pagers, and the exploring life possibilities. 9 different resources and tools that you can pull out and use whenever you think it would be helpful. I'm not going to use the breakouts now. So if any of you work in quality assurance, you know that what we need to ask is, are the services helping the person have the good life they want? Are the services and supports helping them stay away from what they don't want? If the trajectory starts going towards what they don't want, and that's normal. Pandemic. My family member who was hospitalized, his trajectory changed significantly. And our challenge is it went down towards what he doesn't want. How are we helping him get back on track towards the good life he wants? Our services and supports helping the person have what's important to them balanced with what's important for them. As a service coordinator, as a family member, these are questions we should be asking ourselves all the time. So I want you to think about, do you know people's gifts? Do you know what their good life is? Not what services they've identified, not system speak. I want to be independent. I want to live in the community. I want a job in the community. That's system speak. But what does a good life look like for them? Do you know what's important to them in all 8 areas? And then how are we helping people have that life and share the gifts so they're valued? You don't become part of your community because you go to Walmart every week. You become part of your community because you go somewhere on a regular basis and contribute and share your gifts. So please remember, whenever you use one of these tools, it's not just I heard about them, they're cool, but why do I think this tool will help me learn more about the person or family? Or why do I think this tool will empower them? So there's always a why. Explain it to somebody. I learned about this one page. I think it might help you introduce yourself when you're looking to interview a provider. I think it might help you introduce yourself to potential employers when you go on interviews. And what's written for an employment interview would be much different than what's written as a general introduction, or if you're in the hospital. That you don't have to use a specific tool on everybody, and you don't have to use all the tools on one person. There's got to be a reason. Why am I using this? Why do I think it will help? Please use it on yourself before you use it on anybody else. And what people and families have said is if you start the conversation and write on one of these tools and give it to them, make sure the power goes, make sure the paper goes to the person, because families have told us and people with lived experience have said, having the paper gives me paper power and paper courage. I can share that paper. I don't have to answer 100 questions. And it gives me courage to speak up because I've already thought about it and I've written it down. So this is the last poll. I want you to think about what 2 resources or tools do you plan to use in the next few weeks? And I'm asking you to be specific. A lot of times we go to trainings and we say, oh, I'm going to use them all. And I'm like, no, you're not. So I want you to think about your caseload, think about what's coming up, think about what's happening in your family's life. What do you think might be helpful to use in the next 2 to 3 weeks? Where are we? December 7th. Oh my goodness. We only have 2 weeks till the break, the holiday break, until next January. What do you think you might truly use? Because you're thinking, I have somebody on my caseload who, or my family member is going to be, and this might help them. So take the poll. I want to see your answers. I'm not seeing responses. Are you answering? Do I have to answer?
No, you should be seeing responses.
Okay.
Here, I think everybody's pretty much done. I'll go ahead and end it and see if that pops up for you.
Oh, okay. I don't see anything. Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome. Are you seeing it?
No.
Oh, well, shoot. Well, I will share with you that our winner at 38% is the one-page person-centered description. Below that is the trajectory. We have the vision tool at 25%.
Nice.
Tied are the integrated STAR and integrated support options at 19%, and 13% chose the experiences and questions booklet.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
So I'm so excited. I love the one-page person-centered description. I just think it's so powerful. I love that some of you are saying the experiences and questions booklet. It really gives you the conversation starters. It really helps you have that conversation. And the vision tool, it helps people and families really think broadly about what is a good life. So thank you, everybody. That's great. A couple of highlights that are coming up from the Family Resource Network of Ohio. Please, please, please like our website. Please also like our Facebook page. And if you have stories of how you've used Charting the Life Course, I have been posting stories on Facebook, 5 sentences. I don't put names because I don't want people to feel like, oh, I don't want to share because I don't want people to know. So I will just say something like, a mother of a 17-year-old shared that she used this tool to help her daughter start thinking about what she wants to do after high school. And if you have any stories, you have my email at the beginning, or you could just submit them to frnohio.org. We have a community of practice meeting in January on the 25th from 10 to 11. We are doing a family series there. We don't tape it and we do not give CEUs. We want it to be for families. We want families to feel comfortable talking about how they would use the tool and their loved one. And that's from 4 to 5:30 on 3 consecutive Wednesdays. I'll do another overview on February 15th. So if you have new staff or people that you're like, you should hear this, please let them know. And on Friday, March 17th, we are having our in-person Ohio showcase at the Renaissance Hotel in Westerville. I think it's 9 to 4 with breakfast at 8:30, I think, something like that. And there will be CEUs. And we also, for those of you who are like, we want to use them, but we're not quite sure how, we do provide guided implementation. It's a series of 6 1.5-hour sessions where you review a tool or a resource, you use it with your caseload or your family. You come back and share, because we want people to use, not just say, yes, it's great. And we do give CEUs for that. So if your agency is interested in that, your county board, your school, your provider agency, we are happy to do that without cost. Or if you individually want to be part of that, but you have to commit to 6 1.5-hour sessions and doing the work, let us know. Please like our Facebook page. Again, all the resources are on lifecoursetools.com. I told you where on the website to find them. And we want to thank our supporters and our resources.